When you think of Johnny Depp, you think of chaos, rebellion and absolute unpredictability. But his watch collection, it follows the exact same rulebook. While most celebrities chase million-dollar grails, Depp wears watches that feel random or just plain confusing. So today, we're counting down Johnny Depp's most questionable watch choices, one by one. Kicking off our list is the Cartier Ballon Bleu that looks perfect on Depp's wrist. Johnny Depp has been spotted wearing the Cartier Ballon Bleu on multiple occasions, especially during formal appearances. While this watch is widely respected for its elegance and timeless design, it feels strangely disconnected from Depp's rugged, rebellious persona, almost like a forced attempt at refinement rather than a natural extension of his style. The Ballon Bleu typically features a smooth, rounded 42mm stainless steel case with Cartier's signature integrated crown guard set with a blue cabochon sapphire, paired with a clean silver dial showcasing bold Roman numerals that curve subtly around the crown, along with blue steel hands that add a touch of traditional sophistication. While inside, it runs on a reliable automatic mechanical movement designed more for elegance and consistency than raw performance. With a market price of $4,000, it's polished, refined and undeniably classy. But that's exactly where the disconnect lies, because on someone like Depp, who thrives on chaos and imperfection, the watch feels less like a statement and more like a costume piece that doesn't quite belong. But if Cartier feels too bold for Depp, the next watch swings hard in the opposite direction, into pure elegance and class. Taking the number 6 spot is a Rolex that looks timeless and elegant as ever. Pictured in 2014, this is perhaps the only time Depp has been photographed wearing a Rolex. The Submariner is typically built with a 40mm oyster steel case, a unidirectional rotating bezel designed for dive timing, and a highly legible black dial with luminous markers and Mercedes-style hands, all protected by a scratch-resistant sapphire crystal, while inside beats a robust automatic movement known for its precision and durability, offering around 48 hours of power reserve and water resistance up to 300 meters, making it one of the most reliable dive watches ever created. But what makes this moment interesting is not the watch itself, but how it sits on Depp's wrist. Unlike many of his other choices that feel random or disconnected, the Submariner actually complements his presence, adding a sense of quiet confidence and timeless a feel that feels natural rather than forced. With a market price of over $10,000, the watch carries that intentional vintage charm with an iconic presence that defines the Submariner legacy. And just when you think things couldn't get more interesting, the next watch completely abandons luxury altogether. Sliding into the 5th spot is a Juvenia Sextant, which suits Depp's unusual persona. Johnny Depp wore it on the cover of Esquire magazine back in 2008, instantly pushing this once overlooked design into the spotlight. Depp's Juvenia Architect is easily one of the most unconventional pieces in his entire collection. A true 1960s era vintage watch that blurs the line between timekeeping instrument and scientific tool, which is exactly why it stands out so sharply on his wrist. Often referred to as the protractor or sextant, this watch features a highly unusual dial design built around protractor-style markings that resemble navigational or architectural measuring instruments. Moreover, it's also paired with uniquely shaped hands that resemble precision tools rather than traditional watch hands, making it feel more like something pulled from an engineer's desk than a luxury accessory. The case itself is relatively modest by modern standards, typically around 33mm, crafted in stainless steel with a thin profile that reflects the design language of its era, while inside it runs on a manually wound mechanical movement. What truly elevated the watch's status was when it transformed into a cult favourite among vintage collectors. Despite its rarity today, the Juvenia Architect remains relatively accessible in the collector market, typically trading between $3,000 and $5,000. But its real value lies in its sheer uniqueness, as this is not a watch chosen for readability or practicality, but for its artistic, almost intellectual aesthetic, making it one of the most confusing yet fascinating choices in Depp's entire lineup. But if that felt too basic, the next watch goes back to luxury, just not in the way you'd expect. At number 4, we have one of the most elegant watches in Depp's closet, and it's the Cartier Tank Cintrée. Depp's Cartier Tank Cintrée Dual Time is one of the most intriguing and stylistically complex pieces in his entire collection. It's a watch that perfectly blends vintage elegance with unusual functionality. Originally introduced in the 1990s as a rare variation of the iconic Tank Cintrée, this watch immediately stands out because of its long curved rectangular case, typically crafted in precious metals like 18-karat yellow gold or platinum. Then it's also designed to ergonomically wrap around the wrist while maintaining a distinctly Art Deco aesthetic that feels both historic and timeless. What makes this piece truly unique, however, is its dual time functionality, achieved not through a conventional GMT hand, but through two completely separate dials, each powered by its own manually wound mechanical movement, often based on ETA calibers, meaning the watch essentially contains two independent engines inside a single case. Each dial features Cartier's signature Roman numerals and blue steeled hands, but with slightly different layouts to visually distinguish between time zones. And that's where the contradiction lies. This is a watch built for sophisticated global travelers, yet on Johnny Depp's wrist, it feels less like a calculated choice and more like another unpredictable addition. But if this watch looks crazy on Johnny's wrist, the next one on the list is going to blow your mind with its weird charm. Cracking the top 3 is one of the weirdest watches ever made, and somehow it fits Depp perfectly. The Corum Bubble is easily one of the most unconventional watches in Johnny Depp's collection. Depp was spotted wearing a 47mm Corum Bubble Mexican Skull in stainless steel, treated with black PVD, featuring a black dial with a skull pattern, limited to just 188 pieces worldwide. Defined by its oversized dome sapphire crystal that creates a distorted, almost surreal visual effect on the dial beneath it, making it feel more like a piece of wearable art than a traditional timepiece. Typically featuring a bold 45mm case, the Bubble stands out instantly on the wrist, while inside it runs on an automatic movement that takes a backseat to the watch's design focus identity, as this is clearly not a watch built for precision or practicality, but rather for making a statement. And in this case, it actually works, because the watch's eccentric, almost chaotic design aligns perfectly with Depp's personality. At the same time, that alignment is exactly what makes it problematic, as it pushes the watch into novelty territory, making it feel less like a serious horological piece. With a market price of $6,000, this unique piece is like a crown jewel in Depp's collection. And from playful design, we now move into something far more traditional, yet still a new masterpiece. Taking the runner-up spot is a watch that blends sportiness with luxury. Depp was spotted wearing it back in 2004 in a fashion horology advertisement. The Montblanc TimeWalker is a watch that sits in an awkward middle ground within Johnny Depp's collection, offering a combination of sporty design and luxury branding, yet failing to fully commit to either identity, which ultimately makes it one of the least memorable pieces he owns. It typically features a 43mm stainless steel case with a chronograph layout, bold numerals, and a design inspired by automotive aesthetics, while inside it runs on an automatic movement designed for everyday reliability and functionality, with a solid build quality that reflects Montblanc's growing presence in watchmaking. However, despite its technical competence and respectable design, the watch lacks a defining character, especially when placed alongside more iconic or unconventional pieces in Depp's collection, making it feel like a filler rather than a standout choice, which is surprising given the brand's potential. And finally, we head towards the watch that perfectly sums up Depp's entire collection. And the number one watch that made the cut to our list is a watch that isn't even truly vintage, but still matches Depp's unique style. Depp has been spotted wearing a custom-made VDB watch, and this is where his collection starts to feel less like watch collecting and more like emotional storytelling. Because VDB, which is short for Vintage Daily Beaters, is a niche brand known for its handcrafted timepieces that are intentionally designed to feel aged and worn, even though when they're not truly vintage at all. What makes Depp's piece even more unusual is the deeply personal element, as his watch reportedly features engravings of his children's names, Lily Rose and Jack, along with his own, suggesting that this wasn't chosen for horological value, but rather for sentimental reasons. Technically, VDB watches are often built with oversized cases, typically around 46mm, thick dome crystals, and heavily constructed stainless steel bodies. These are also powered by modified or vintage source mechanical movements, sometimes even using old calibers like Universal Genève micro rotor movements. And that's it! From Cartier to Corum Bubble to completely worn out vintage pieces, Johnny Depp's watch collection isn't about luxury, it's about unpredictability and uniqueness. And maybe that's exactly what matches his personality. Now, if this watch collection surprised you, stick around with us, because our next video is about Daniel Radcliffe's watch collection. See you there.